Last summer, I harvested just over 90 pounds of ripe tomatoes from 4 plants in a single raised bed. The summer before that, with the same varieties in the same soil, I struggled to clear 30 pounds. Same seeds, same sun, same bed. The only thing that changed was how I watered, and that one adjustment turned a heartbreaking season of cracked skins, blossom and rot, and stalled plants into the best tomato harvest of my life. Here is what is going to surprise you. The watering mistake quietly wrecking your tomato harvest right this minute is not underwatering. It is not overwatering either. It is something much more specific, and once I show you what it is, you will not be able to unsee it in your own garden. Most home gardeners water their tomatoes the same way, a little bit every day. A quick splash with the hose after work. The soil on top looks dark, the leaves look green, and we walk away feeling like good plant parents. But that habit is silently starving the plant, weakening the root system, and setting up almost every tomato problem you can name, from split fruit to that sickening black patch on the bottom of the fruit. In this video, I will walk you through exactly how I water my tomatoes today. The simple shift that changed everything. The right timing, depth, and frequency. Stick with me to the end, because I am going to share a buried bottle trick from an old market gardener that delivers water straight to the deep roots while you are asleep, costs nothing to put together, and works in any raised bed or container. I did not learn this from a book. I learned it from getting it wrong for almost 15 years. For most of my growing life, I watered the way my father watered. Every evening I grabbed the hose, gave each plant a generous drink, and called it good. The plants looked happy enough, but every July the same problems showed up. Bottom rot on the romas, splits across the better boys, yellowing creeping up the lower leaves, plants that flowered hard in June and then gave up by August. I blamed the weather, the soil, anything but the one thing I was actually doing wrong. Then a few summers ago, I came across some research from a university extension service on tomato root depth and how the plant actually pulls water from the ground. It reset everything. If you have been watering the way I used to, hear me clearly. You are not a bad gardener. You are doing what almost everyone does. Nobody told you the part that nobody talks about. Here's the part nobody talks about. A mature tomato plant, grown properly, can push its roots 2 to 3 feet down into the soil. That is not a delicate houseplant. That is a deep-rooted, drought-adapted fruiting plant that evolved in the dry mountain valleys of South America. Its entire design is built around hunting moisture deep underground. But when you sprinkle the surface every evening, you are training the roots to camp out in the top 2 or 3 inches, where the water keeps showing up. Shallow roots cannot regulate moisture intake properly. They cannot pull calcium efficiently. They dry out the moment the sun hits the soil. And they put your plant on a brutal seesaw, soaked at sunset, parched by mid-morning. That swing, wet to dry, is the real killer. Blossom end rot is rarely a calcium shortage in the soil itself. It is almost always a calcium delivery problem caused by inconsistent moisture. Cracked tomatoes are the same story. The fruit grows slowly through a dry stretch, then the plant suddenly gulps water, and the fruit swells faster than the skin can stretch, so it splits open. The fix is not more water. It is the right water, at the right depth, on the right rhythm. So let me show you how to do this. First, stop guessing whether your plant needs a drink. The surface inch tells you almost nothing. It bakes dry in the sun, even when the soil 6 inches down is perfectly moist. Build the finger test habit. Push your index finger straight down into the soil, about 2 inches away from the main stem, until you reach the second knuckle, roughly 3 to 4 inches deep. If the soil feels cool and slightly damp, like a wrung-out sponge, leave it alone. If it feels dry and crumbly all the way down, it is time to water. If you can squeeze water out of a pinch of it, you have already overdone it and you need to back off for a day or two. Most advice tells you to water on a schedule. What actually works is watering on condition. Now, how do you deliver the water? Stop watering a little. Start watering a lot, less often. When I water a mature tomato in midsummer, I give it 1 to 2 gallons per plant, slowly, right at the base, every 3 to 5 days. Not a nightly splash. A deep, deliberate soak 2 or 3 times a week. Here is why that matters. When you pour a full gallon slowly at the base, the water sinks 12 to 18 inches into the soil. The deep roots actually get a drink. When the surface dries out a day or two later, the roots have to chase the moisture downward, which makes them stronger and far more drought resistant. You are training the plant to be sturdy instead of dependent. The way I do it is simple. Take a regular garden hose, pull off the nozzle, set it on a slow trickle, and lay it at the base of the plant for 2 or 3 minutes, then move on. A soaker hose or drip line works even better. Just make sure the water hits the soil, not the leaves. Wet leaves invite fungal diseases like early blight and septoria leaf spot, 2 of the fastest ways to lose a tomato in July. Water the dirt, not the plant. And water in the morning if you can, between 6 and 9 a.m., so the soil has time to absorb it before the heat kicks in. Once your rhythm is dialed in, the next move is mulch. And I mean really mulch. This is the highest leverage thing I do every spring. When your plants are about a foot tall and the soil has warmed up, lay down 2 to 3 inches of organic mulch across the root zone. I use straw, shredded leaves, or grass clippings dried for a few days. Keep the mulch about 2 inches back from the main stem so you do not trap dampness against the bark and invite stem rot. Mulch cuts evaporation from the soil surface by as much as 70%. It keeps the root zone 15 to 20 degrees cooler on hot days. It smothers weeds. And as it breaks down, it feeds the soil life that helps your tomatoes absorb nutrients. I have grown mulched and unmulched tomatoes side by side. The mulched plants used about half the water and produced visibly more fruit. If you live in a cooler climate, wait until the soil has warmed to at least 60 degrees before mulching, or you are insulating cold soil and slowing the plant down. Now think about how to adjust as the season changes. In the first 3 or 4 weeks after transplanting, your tomato has a small root system and cannot reach deep moisture yet. Water more often, but still deeply, every 2 or 3 days with maybe half a gallon per plant. As the plant grows, you stretch the time between waterings. By peak summer, with a fully grown plant carrying fruit, I'm on a 3 to 5 day cycle with 1 to 2 gallons per plant. When the heat climbs above 90 degrees for several days, bump up to every 2 days, but keep the volume high. Do not switch back to daily sips. That undoes everything. If you get a heavy rain, skip your next scheduled watering and check with the finger test first. More tomatoes are killed by gardeners watering on top of a recent downpour than by any drought. As fruit ripens in late summer, experienced growers pull back slightly on water to concentrate the sugars and deepen the flavor. I do this with paste tomatoes especially, just enough to keep the plant from wilting, no more. The fruit comes out richer and sweeter. Just do not swing too far, because that swing is what causes cracking. Steady and slightly less is the goal. not feast and famine. Learn to read the plant, too. A properly watered tomato has firm, dark, green leaves that hold themselves up in the morning. A mild afternoon droop on a hot day is normal. The plant is closing its pores to conserve water, and as long as it perks back up by evening, you do not need to do anything. What you are watching for is morning wilt. If the leaves are limp at 7 in the morning, when the soil should still be cool, the plant ran out of water overnight. Soak it deeply. If lower leaves yellow from the bottom up while the soil stays wet, that is overwatering, and you need to back off for a few days. A few patterns I see in nearly every garden I visit. The daily evening sprinkle, which feels like care, but keeps roots shallow. The overhead sprinkler that drenches the leaves and invites disease. The fixed Tuesday and Friday schedule that ignores what the soil is actually doing. And the panic soak after a dry spell, which is exactly what causes splitting and rot. The fix for everyone is the same. Water deeply, water at the base, water on condition, and stay consistent. Now for the bonus I promised. The buried bottle method. An old market gardener showed me this about 12 years ago. Take an empty 1-gallon plastic jug, a milk jug, or a vinegar jug. Poke 6 to 8 small holes, about the size of a pencil tip, around the bottom third of the jug. Bury it right next to your tomato, 6 to 8 inches from the main stem, with the neck and cap sticking up about an inch above the soil. Leave the cap off or loose. Now, instead of running the hose at the base, fill the jug. The water seeps out slowly over several hours and goes directly to the deep root zone. No evaporation, no runoff, no wet leaves. You can fill a jug in 30 seconds and walk away. I run 2 jugs per plant for the big indeterminate varieties and 1 jug for the smaller determinate types. The first season I tried it, I cut my watering time in half and had almost no blossom end rot and noticeably bigger plants by August. If you take one thing away from this video, let it be this. Water your tomatoes like the deep-rooted plants they actually are. Soak them well, mulch them heavily, watch them closely, trust the rhythm. That 90-pound harvest was not luck, and it was not a magic variety. It was just the right water at the right depth on the right schedule. Thanks so much for watching. Drop a comment letting me know what tomato troubles you have been wrestling with, and share this with a fellow gardener who might be losing their harvest to the very mistake we just talked through. Subscribe for more practical gardening guides like this one, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, keep growing.